Have you ever watched a master gardener at work, observing how they approach a messy garden with patient care? Notice how they don't rush or panic when they see all the weeds and overgrown plants. They don't get overwhelmed by the mess in front of them. Instead, they move with calm purpose, clearing one section at a time, showing the natural beauty that was always there, just hidden by all the wild growth. Have you considered that your mind might be like this garden, and that within you lies the same ability for patient, peaceful change? What if I told you that the secret to a clear mind doesn't lie in adding more techniques, downloading more apps, or watching more videos, but rather in the ancient art of clearing away the mental mess that blocks your natural state of focused awareness? What if the path to rock-solid calm and sharp focus has been mapped for centuries by warriors and monks who understood something deep about how the mind really works? Welcome to a journey into the meeting point of two of Japan's most powerful traditions, Zen Buddhism and Bushido, the way of the warrior. Together, these ancient yet deeply useful paths offer not just techniques, but a complete change in how we relate to our thoughts, emotions, and the endless demands of modern life. This isn't about adopting a strange new lifestyle or running away from the world, but about discovering practical wisdom that you can use right now for the challenges you face today, tomorrow, and throughout your life. Consider for a moment the strange problem of our time. We have more tools for getting things done than ever before, yet focus seems harder and harder to find. We have unlimited access to information about health and happiness, yet anxiety and mental mess affect more people than ever. We can connect instantly with anyone, anywhere, yet we often feel cut off from our own inner world. This problem isn't random, but rather a sign of a deeper issue between how we are living and how our minds are meant to work. The Zen tradition teaches us that the mind in its natural state is like a clear mountain lake, perfectly showing reality without twisting it. Yet, through our habits of overthinking, constant phone checking, and emotional reactions, we stir up mud that makes these waters cloudy. The practice isn't about achieving something new, but about letting the mud settle, showing the clarity that was always there beneath the surface. Bushido, the code of the samurai, looks at this same truth from a different angle. For the warrior, having a clear mind wasn't a nice to have, but a must have. In the space between life and death, there was no room for mental mess, no tolerance for scattered attention. The samurai understood that true strength came not from being aggressive, but from a mind so clear and focused that the right action happened naturally, without hesitation or inner conflict. They call this state Mushin, no mind, not meaning being unconscious, but rather being free from the prison of endless thinking. But here's the deep insight that both traditions share. The clear mind isn't something we create by trying hard, but something we uncover through the right kind of practice. It's not about thinking harder or trying to force focus, but about understanding the principles that let natural clarity come through. This difference is crucial and often misunderstood in our success-focused culture, where we are taught to believe that more effort always equals better results. The roots of clarity, understanding Zen's journey. To truly grasp the power of these practices, we must first journey back over 1500 years to when Bodhidharma, a Buddhist monk from India, arrived at the Shaolin Temple in China. This moment marks not just a physical journey, but a complete shift in how humanity understands the mind. Bodhidharma brought with him dhyana, the practice of meditation, which would grow into what the Chinese called Chan and the Japanese would later call Zen. But Zen wasn't simply meditation as we often understand it today. It was a radical new approach to consciousness that challenged every assumption about how awakening happens. Where traditional Buddhism of that time focused on slow, gradual improvement through study and good behavior, Zen pointed directly at the mind's true nature, saying that enlightenment was not some far-off goal, but our original condition, just hidden by our thinking habits. This revolutionary idea traveled to Japan in the 12th century, where it found a culture ready for its message. The Japanese had long valued being direct, keeping things simple, and seeing the real essence of things beneath how they appeared on the surface. Zen didn't just survive in Japan, it thrived, developing unique features that made it different from its Chinese roots. The Japanese Zen masters created new teaching methods, new forms of practice, and most importantly for us, new ways to use Zen principles in daily life. It's worth noting that Zen's focus on direct experience over book learning made it especially appealing to warriors. While scholars and priests debated ideas, warriors needed something immediate, practical, and effective. They found in Zen not a religion, but a technology for the mind, a step-by-step approach to developing the mental clarity and emotional balance necessary for their way of life. The warrior's path, Bushido's growth. At the same time Zen was developing, another stream of wisdom was flowing through Japanese culture. Bushido, literally meaning the way of the warrior, wasn't created all at once or written down by a single teacher. Instead, it grew naturally over centuries as the samurai class developed their unique code of conduct, their approach to training, and their philosophy of life and death. The earliest samurai were simply warriors on horses serving local lords, but as their role in society grew, so did their need for a complete philosophy that addressed not just fighting techniques, but the mental and spiritual parts of their calling. They needed principles that would keep them effective in battle while also guiding their behavior in times of peace. They required practices that would keep their minds sharp and their spirits unbreakable no matter what happened. By the Kamakura period, roughly 1185 to 1333, the combination of fighting skill and spiritual practice had become central to samurai identity. This wasn't just about becoming better fighters, but about becoming complete human beings who could stay calm in any situation, make decisions without hesitation, and act with perfect clarity even in the chaos of battle. The samurai discovered that the greatest enemy wasn't on the battlefield, but within their own minds. Fear, doubt, anger, and the desire to cling to life itself. The influence of Zen on Bushido cannot be overstated. Zen provided the framework and practical methods for achieving the mental states the warriors wanted. The concept of Mushin, or no mind, became central to martial arts. This wasn't about emptiness in the sense of being vacant, but about a mind so clear and present that it could respond instantly and correctly to any situation without the interference of overthinking. The sacred combination. What makes the coming together of Zen and Bushido so powerful is how each tradition fills gaps in the other. Zen provided the deep understanding about consciousness and the methods for training the mind. Bushido provided the urgency, the practical use, and the test of these principles under extreme conditions. Together, they create a complete system for developing rock-solid mental clarity and emotional balance. Consider how this combination addressed different aspects of mental training. From Zen came Zazen, seated meditation, which developed the ability to pay attention for long periods. From Bushido came the emphasis on keeping this awareness during activity. Zen taught the practitioner to watch thoughts without getting attached to them. Bushido demanded this non-attachment be maintained even when those thoughts were about life and death. Zen emphasized the illusion of the separate self. Bushido required acting from this understanding in service to something greater than personal interests. This combination wasn't limited to warriors. As Japanese society changed, these principles spread into every aspect of culture. The tea ceremony, flower arranging, calligraphy, and garden design all became ways to practice the same principles of mindfulness, presence, and clarity that warriors used for battle. This spreading, of what were once elite practices meant that merchants, artists, and eventually people from all walks of life could access these powerful methods for training the mind. The historical record shows us something remarkable. Those who deeply engaged with these practices, whether warrior or monk, merchant or artist, consistently reported similar experiences. They described a quality of mental clarity that made hard decisions simple, a state of calm that lasted through crisis, and an ability to focus that transformed both their work and their relationships. These weren't mystical claims but practical results observed across centuries and countless practitioners. Principle 1. Mushin, the art of no mind. Imagine a master piano player performing a difficult piece. Watch their fingers dance across the keys, creating beautiful melodies without consciously thinking about each note. Observe how they're both completely present and somehow absent, fully engaged, yet not trapped in thinking about what they're doing. This is Mushin in action, though the piano player might never have heard the term. It's a state we've all touched in moments of complete absorption, yet few of us understand how to create it on purpose. Mushin, literally meaning no mind, represents perhaps the most misunderstood concept in Japanese philosophy. This doesn't mean being unconscious or having an empty head, but rather being free from the constant commentary, judgment, and analysis that usually fills our awareness. It's the difference between experiencing a sunset and thinking about experiencing a sunset, between dancing and thinking about how you're dancing, between living and constantly evaluating how you're living. In the context of Bushido, Mushin was essential for survival. A samurai who stopped to think in the middle of combat was a dead samurai. The sword must move faster than thought, action must come from a deeper place than conscious thinking. Yet, this principle goes far beyond martial arts. In our modern context, Mushin is the state we enter when we're in the zone or experiencing what psychologists now call flow state. It's marked by effortless action, time seeming to slow down or speed up, and a sense of unity between self and activity. But here's the paradox that the ancient masters understood. You cannot achieve Mushin by trying to achieve it. The very effort to empty the mind fills it with the intention to empty it. Instead, Mushin comes naturally when we create the right conditions. Much like sleep comes not by forcing ourselves to sleep, but by creating conditions that allow sleep to happen. The practices of Zen and Bushido are basically methods for creating these conditions consistently and reliably. To understand Mushin more deeply, we must separate it from being mindless. When we're mindlessly scrolling through social media or driving without paying attention, we're not in Mushin, but in a state of being disconnected. Mushin is marked by heightened awareness, not less awareness. Every sense is alert, every perception is clear, but there's no mental story about what's being perceived. It's pure experience without the overlay of thinking about it. Principle 2. Fudoshin, the immovable mind. Picture a huge oak tree in a storm. The wind howls, branches whip about wildly, yet the trunk stays steady, unmoved by the chaos around it. This is Fudoshin, the immovable mind. Not rigid or brittle, but having such deep roots that outside chaos cannot disturb its basic stability. In our lives, we face constant storms of emotion, pressure, and change. Fudoshin is what allows us to stay centered through it all. This principle teaches us that true strength doesn't come from resistance, but from a kind of flexible stability. The immovable mind isn't frozen or stuck. It can respond quickly and adapt while keeping its central balance. Think of a spinning top that keeps its position no matter how the surface beneath it moves. This is the quality of mind that Zen and Bushido practices develop. In practical terms, Fudoshin shows up as emotional strength. When someone criticizes us, Fudoshin allows us to hear the feedback without being knocked off balance by it. When plans fall apart, Fudoshin helps us adapt without panic. When success comes, Fudoshin keeps us from being carried away by excitement. It's not about pushing down emotions, but about keeping a stable center of awareness that can observe and experience emotions without being controlled by them. The development of Fudoshin requires understanding a basic truth. Thoughts and emotions are like weather patterns passing through the sky of consciousness. They come, they go, but the sky itself stays unchanged. Most of us identify so strongly with our thoughts and feelings that we're constantly being pushed and pulled by them. Fudoshin training teaches us to shift our identity from the weather to the sky itself. Consider how this applies to making decisions. Without Fudoshin, we make different decisions depending on how we feel. When we're angry, we might act without thinking. When we're afraid, we might be too careful. When we're excited, we might promise too much. But with Fudoshin, we can acknowledge these emotional states while making decisions from a deeper place of wisdom and clarity. This doesn't mean becoming emotionless, but rather developing the ability to feel fully while acting wisely. Principle 3. Zanshin, continuing mind. After an archer releases an arrow, there's a moment where they keep their posture, their attention following the arrow's flight. They don't immediately relax or turn away, but remain present with the action even after it's complete. This continuation of awareness is Zanshin, a principle that changes how we engage with every action in our lives. Zanshin literally means remaining mind or continuing mind, and it represents the quality of sustained awareness that extends beyond the apparent beginning and end of an action. In martial arts, it's the alertness kept after doing a technique. In daily life, it's the presence we bring to transitions, completions, and the spaces between activities. Most of us live in a state of constant mental gear shifting. We finish one task and immediately jump to the next, leaving a trail of incomplete attention throughout our day. This breaking up of awareness is a main source of mental tiredness and confusion. Zanshin teaches us to complete each action fully, to keep awareness through transitions, and to bring the same quality of presence to ending something as we do to beginning it. This principle has deep implications for mental clarity. When we practice Zanshin, we don't carry the leftover bits of unfinished actions in our minds. Each email is fully completed before moving to the next. Each conversation is fully finished before we shift our attention elsewhere. This might seem like it would slow us down, but practitioners consistently report the opposite. By fully completing each action, they actually move through their days with greater efficiency and less mental tiredness. Furthermore, Zanshin develops our ability to stay focused in an age of constant distraction. It's the cure for the modern habit of partial attention, where we're always somewhat focused on multiple things, but never fully present with any one thing. Through Zanshin practice, we learn to gather our scattered awareness and direct it completely to what's in front of us, keeping this focus not just during the exciting or challenging parts, but through the entire arc of an activity. Principle 4. Shoshin, beginner's mind. A child seeing the ocean for the first time doesn't compare it to other oceans they've seen. They don't analyze it through the lens of ocean science or sea history. They simply encounter it with wonder, curiosity, and complete openness to the experience. This is Shoshin, beginner's mind, and surprisingly, it represents not being naive, but the highest level of sophistication in how we can engage with reality. Shoshin is the practice of approaching each situation as if encountering it for the first time, regardless of how familiar it might seem. This doesn't mean forgetting what we know, but rather not allowing our knowledge to create a barrier between us and direct experience. It's the difference between seeing your spouse through 20 years of built-up assumptions and actually seeing them fresh in this moment. In the context of mental clarity, Shoshin is revolutionary. Most of our mental clutter comes from our assumptions, biases, and the constant comparing and sorting our minds do automatically. We see a situation and immediately our mind says, "I know what this is," It's just like that other time. But this mental shortcut, while sometimes useful, often prevents us from seeing what's actually happening. We respond to our idea of the situation rather than the situation itself. The practice of Shoshin requires a kind of humble courage. It takes humility to admit that no matter how much we know, there's always more to see. It takes courage to release the comfort of our assumptions and encounter reality directly. Yet, this is exactly what gives masters in any field their edge. They keep the curiosity and openness of beginners combined with the skill and knowledge of experts. Consider how Shoshin applies to problem solving. When we approach a challenge with fixed ideas about what will or won't work, we limit our creative potential. But when we approach it with beginner's mind, we might see solutions that our expertise had hidden from us. This is why companies often bring in outsiders for fresh perspectives. But with Shoshin, we can be our own outsiders, seeing our familiar challenges with fresh eyes. The foundation, Zazen, and the art of just sitting. Let's clear up the confusion about meditation once and for all. Zazen, the sitting meditation of Zen, isn't about achieving a special state or having mystical experiences. It's simply about sitting and being aware without trying to change or achieve anything. Imagine sitting by a river, watching the water flow. You're not trying to change the river's course or speed. You're simply watching. This is the essence of Zazen, except the river you're watching is your own consciousness. The physical posture of Zazen is important, not for mystical reasons, but for practical ones. Sitting upright with a straight spine allows for easy breathing and keeps you alert. The eyes are kept slightly open, looking down at about a 45-degree angle. This prevents both the sleepiness that often comes with closed eyes and the distraction that comes from looking around. The hands form what's called the cosmic mudra, with the left hand resting on the right, palms up, and thumbs lightly touching. This creates a circle that serves as a subtle feedback tool. If you become tense, your thumbs press together. If you become too relaxed, they drift apart. But the real practice of Zazen happens in the mind, or more accurately, in the quality of awareness we bring to whatever comes up in the mind. Thoughts come, and we notice them without judgment. Emotions arise, and we observe them without resistance. Physical sensations occur, and we experience them without commentary. We're not trying to stop thoughts or achieve a blank mind. We're developing the ability to observe our mental processes without being caught up in them. This might sound simple, but anyone who's tried it knows the challenge. Within minutes, sometimes seconds, we find ourselves lost in thought, planning dinner or replaying conversations. This isn't failure, it's the practice. Each time we notice we've been carried away and return our attention to the present, we strengthen our capacity for awareness. It's like doing push-ups for the mind. Each return to awareness builds our strength. The transformative power of Zazen doesn't come from what happens during the sitting, but from how it changes our relationship with our minds throughout the day. We begin to notice our thought patterns, our emotional reactions, our usual ways of seeing things. This noticing creates a space between stimulus and response, a moment of choice where we can act from wisdom rather than just reacting. Breathing techniques, the bridge between mind and body. Have you noticed that your breath changes with your mental state? When anxious, breathing becomes shallow and fast. When relaxed, it's deep and slow. This isn't just a coincidence, but a two-way street. By consciously adjusting our breathing, we can directly influence our mental state. The samurai understood this connection and developed specific breathing techniques to maintain clarity and calm even in life-threatening situations. The basic technique is called hara breathing, or breathing from the center. Rather than breathing high in the chest, which activates the stress response and promotes anxiety, we breathe deep into the belly, engaging the relaxation response and promoting calm. Place one hand on your chest and one on your belly. Breathe normally and notice which hand moves more. For most of us, it's the chest hand, showing shallow, stress-promoting breathing. To practice hara breathing, imagine you have a balloon in your belly that you're inflating with each inhale. The chest should stay relatively still while the belly expands. On the exhale, the belly naturally contracts. This might feel unnatural at first, as we're often taught to suck in our stomachs. But this is how we breathed as babies, before stress and social conditioning changed our patterns. The samurai developed a specific counting pattern that makes this breathing work best for mental clarity. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 6 counts, and hold empty for 2 counts. This 4-4-6-2 pattern has several benefits. The longer exhale activates the relaxation response. The holds create moments of stillness that interrupt the mind's tendency to race. The counting itself provides a focus point that prevents the mind from wandering. But breathing practice isn't just about formal exercises. Throughout the day, we can use single conscious breaths as reset buttons for our mental state. Before entering a meeting, take one deep conscious breath. When switching between tasks, pause for a breath. When you notice tension building, breathe into it. These micro practices add up throughout the day, maintaining a baseline of calm awareness that makes deeper states of clarity more accessible. Movement meditation, the way of dynamic clarity. Stillness and movement are not opposites but complementary aspects of practice. While Zazen develops our ability for clarity in stillness, movement practices teach us to maintain that clarity during activity. The martial arts are perhaps the most developed form of movement meditation, but the principles can be applied to any physical activity. In traditional martial arts training, students spend months, sometimes years, practicing basic movements repeatedly. A single punch might be practiced thousands of times. This isn't just about perfecting technique, but about using movement as a vehicle for mental training. Each repetition is an opportunity to practice present moment awareness, to notice and release unnecessary tension, to maintain breathing rhythm, and to develop the unity of mind and body. The key principle in movement meditation is keeping awareness of the whole body while doing specific movements. Most of us, when focused on doing something with our hands, lose awareness of our feet. When thinking about where we're going, we lose awareness of how we're walking. Movement meditation reverses this breaking apart, teaching us to maintain complete awareness even during complex activities. Walking meditation offers the most accessible entry point to this practice. Unlike normal walking, where the mind wanders while the body moves on autopilot, walking meditation involves bringing full awareness to the act of walking itself. Feel the ground beneath your feet, notice the shift of weight from heel to toe, observe the subtle adjustments your body makes to keep balance. The pace doesn't matter. What matters is the quality of attention. This practice transforms everyday activities into opportunities for mental training. Washing dishes becomes a practice in present moment awareness. Typing becomes an exercise in maintaining relaxed focus. Even exercise routines can become movement meditation when approached with the right quality of attention. The goal isn't to turn everything into a formal practice, but to bring the clarity developed in formal practice into all our activities. The warrior's routines, structuring days for clarity. The samurai understood that mental clarity isn't just about what we do, but how we structure our lives to support clear awareness. They developed daily routines that created a framework for maintaining mental discipline without relying on willpower alone. These routines weren't rigid rules, but flexible structures that could adapt to circumstances while maintaining their essential purpose. The day began before dawn with what they called viewing the morning star. This wasn't mystical but practical, beginning the day in quiet reflection when the mind is naturally clear sets the tone for everything that follows. Modern research confirms what the samurai knew from experience. The first hour of our day strongly influences our mental state for the remaining hours. The morning routine included physical training, not as separate from mental training, but as an essential part of it. The body and mind aren't separate systems, but aspects of a single whole. Physical vitality supports mental clarity, and mental discipline enables physical achievement. The samurai's morning training wasn't about exhaustion, but about awakening the body-mind system to its full capacity. Throughout the day, specific rituals marked transitions between activities. Before meals, a moment of gratitude. Before important decisions, a centering breath. Before sleep, a review of the day's actions without judgment. These weren't empty rituals, but practical techniques for maintaining continuity of awareness throughout the day's various activities. The evening routine was particularly important. The samurai practiced what they called daily death meditation, reflecting on the temporary nature of life. This wasn't depressing, but freeing. By accepting the reality of death, they freed themselves from the anxiety that comes from trying to avoid what can't be avoided. This practice puts daily stresses in perspective and clarifies what truly matters. Clearing mental clutter in the digital age. We live in an era that would seem like magic to the ancient samurai, yet our basic challenge remains the same: maintaining mental clarity among constant demands for our attention. The difference is that where they faced physical threats, we face attention threats. Where they needed clarity for split-second combat decisions, we need it for dealing with information overload and decision fatigue. Consider your smartphone. It's a portal to infinite information, endless entertainment, and constant connection. Yet, it's also potentially the greatest obstacle to mental clarity ever invented. Every notification is designed to capture attention, every app engineered to create engagement loops, every scroll calculated to keep us seeking the next dopamine hit. The principles of Zen and Bushido aren't outdated in this context. They're more necessary than ever. The first step is recognizing that our devices and digital environments are not neutral. They're designed with billions of dollars of research to capture and monetize attention. Fighting this with willpower alone is like a samurai trying to defeat an army single-handedly. Instead, we need to apply strategic wisdom, create physical and time boundaries. Set up device-free zones in your home. Establish specific times for checking messages rather than being constantly available. But this isn't about becoming a digital hermit. The solution isn't to reject technology, but to engage with it from a place of clarity and intention. Before picking up your phone, pause and ask, what is my intention? This simple question, inspired by the principle of Zanshin, transforms unconscious habit into conscious choice. When you do engage with technology, bring the same quality of attention you would bring to meditation. Notice when your attention is captured, observe the emotional pulse, watch the mind's tendency to seek stimulation. The practice of Shoshin, beginner's mind, offers a powerful reframe for our relationship with information. Instead of consuming content to fill mental space or avoid discomfort, approach it with genuine curiosity. What can this teach me? How does this serve my deeper purposes? This shift from passive consumption to active engagement transforms information overload into selective learning. Relationships and the clear mind. One of the most powerful applications of these principles is in our relationships. Most relationship conflicts come not from basic incompatibilities, but from the mental clutter we bring to our interactions. Assumptions, projections, unprocessed emotions, and the constant mental commentary that prevents us from truly seeing and hearing others. Imagine approaching your next conversation with Mushin, no mind. Instead of planning what you'll say next while the other person speaks, you simply listen with complete presence. Instead of filtering their words through your assumptions about what they mean, you hear what they're actually saying. This quality of attention is so rare in our world that it alone can transform relationships. Fudoshin, the immovable mind, becomes invaluable when relationships face challenges. When someone criticizes us or triggers our defenses, Fudoshin allows us to stay centered enough to respond rather than react. We can hear feedback without immediately defending, experience anger without immediately attacking, feel hurt without immediately withdrawing. This space between feeling and action is where relationship wisdom lives. The principle of Zanshin teaches us to bring completion to our interactions. How often do we end conversations suddenly, leaving things unfinished? How frequently do we carry the residue of one interaction into the next? By practicing Zanshin in relationships, we fully complete each interaction, saying what needs to be said, listening to what needs to be heard, and releasing the interaction when it's complete. In close relationships, these practices create a quality of presence that deepens connection beyond what most people ever experience. When both partners commit to clearing their mental clutter, they create a shared space of clarity where genuine closeness can flourish. This doesn't mean relationships become conflict-free, but that conflicts become opportunities for deeper understanding rather than repetitive patterns of reaction. Professional excellence through mental clarity. In the professional world, mental clarity isn't just an advantage, it's becoming a necessity. As work becomes increasingly complex and demanding, those who can maintain focus, make clear decisions, and stay calm under pressure have a decisive edge. The principles of Zen and Bushido offer a systematic approach to developing these abilities. Consider how Mushin applies to creative work. Writers know the experience of flow when words come without effort. Programmers know the state where code seems to write itself. Designers know the moment when solutions appear without forced thinking. These aren't random occurrences, but natural states that arise when we create the right conditions. By understanding and practicing Mushin, we can access these states more reliably. Fudoshin transforms how we handle workplace pressure, deadlines, difficult colleagues, unexpected problems. These are the modern equivalents of battlefield challenges. With Fudoshin, we can maintain our center through corporate storms, making decisions from clarity rather than just reacting. This doesn't mean becoming emotionally detached, but developing the ability to feel the pressure without being controlled by it. The application of Shoshin to professional development is particularly powerful. In a rapidly changing economy, the ability to learn continuously is more valuable than any specific expertise. Shoshin keeps us open to new information, willing to question our assumptions, and able to see opportunities that expertise might blind us to. It's the cure for the expert's curse of thinking we already know everything we need to know. Leadership especially benefits from these principles. A leader with mental clarity inspires confidence, makes better decisions, and creates an environment where others can perform at their best. When a leader embodies Fudoshin, their stability becomes a stabilizing force for the entire team. When they practice Shoshin, they remain open to input from all levels. When they maintain Zanshin, they follow through completely, building trust through consistency. The journey of 10,000 days? As we reach the end of our exploration, remember that what we've discussed isn't a destination but a doorway. The ancient masters spoke of the journey of 10,000 days, roughly 27 years, as the time needed to truly embody these principles. This might seem overwhelming, but consider, you're going to live those days anyway. The only question is whether you'll spend them in mental clutter or increasing clarity. The path doesn't require you to retreat to a monastery or abandon your current life. It asks only that you begin where you are, with what you have, taking one conscious breath, sitting for 5 minutes, bringing awareness to a single activity. These might seem like small steps, but remember the principle of water we discussed at the beginning. Water doesn't move mountains through force, but through persistence, one drop at a time. What makes this journey particularly relevant now is that we're living through a crisis of attention. The average person checks their phone over 100 times per day. We consume more information in a week than our ancestors did in a year. Our minds are more stimulated, more scattered, and more exhausted than perhaps any time in human history. Yet within this chaos lies opportunity. Just as the samurai found clarity in the chaos of battle, we can find clarity in the chaos of modern life. The principles we've explored, Mushin, Fudoshin, Zanshin, and Shoshin, aren't just concepts to understand, but qualities to embody. Each offers a different facet of mental clarity, and together they create a complete approach to living with focus and calm. But intellectual understanding is just the beginning. These principles come alive only through practice, through the daily choice to clear away mental clutter and return to clarity. Consider creating your own blend of these traditions, adapted to your unique circumstances. Perhaps your Zazen happens during your morning commute. Maybe your movement meditation is your evening run. Your warrior's routine might include digital boundaries and transition rituals that make sense for your life. The forms matter less than the essence. The commitment to mental clarity as a priority, not a luxury. The ripple effect. There's something else the ancient masters understood that's worth considering. Personal transformation doesn't happen in isolation. When you develop mental clarity, it affects everyone around you. Your calm becomes contagious. Your focus inspires others. Your presence gives others permission to slow down and be present themselves. In a world of scattered attention and constant anxiety, someone with genuine mental clarity becomes a refuge for others, not through preaching or teaching, but simply through embodying a different way of being. This isn't about superiority, but service. The clearer your mind, the more effectively you can contribute to your family, work, and community. Think back to the garden metaphor we began with. As you clear your mental garden, you're not just creating beauty for yourself, but contributing to the larger landscape. Each person who commits to mental clarity helps create a culture that values depth over superficiality, presence over productivity, wisdom over information. This might be the most important contribution you can make in our current moment. The samurai had a saying, "One life, one encounter." Each moment, each interaction, each experience is unique and will never come again. When our minds are cluttered, we miss these moments, living in a fog of distraction and worry. But when our minds are clear, we can fully receive the gift of each moment, responding to life with the totality of our being. Your next 7 days. As you continue forward from this moment, I invite you to engage in a 7-day experiment. Not a commitment to transform your entire life, but a simple exploration of what's possible. For the next week, choose one principle we've discussed and one practice to embody it. Perhaps it's starting each day with 5 minutes of Zazen. Maybe it's bringing Zanshin to email, fully completing each message before moving to the next. Or it could be approaching one daily activity with complete Shoshin, as if experiencing it for the first time. Notice what happens, not just in your mind, but in your life. How does your work change when you bring even a small degree of additional clarity? How do your relationships shift when you're more present? What decisions become obvious that were previously unclear? This isn't about achieving perfection, but about discovering what's possible when you prioritize mental clarity. Remember, the path of Zen and Bushido isn't about adding more to your life, but about subtracting what's unnecessary. It's not about becoming someone different, but about uncovering who you already are beneath the mental clutter. The clear, focused, calm mind isn't something you need to create. It's your natural state waiting to be revealed. As the Zen saying goes, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The activities of your life don't need to change for transformation to occur. What changes is the quality of mind you bring to these activities. When you chop wood with complete presence, it becomes meditation. When you carry water with full awareness, it becomes practice. When you live your ordinary life with extraordinary clarity, everything becomes part of the path. The ultimate teaching. In the Zen tradition, There's a story about a student who asked his master for the ultimate teaching about clearing the mind. The master said nothing but pointed at the moon. The student looked at the master's finger. The master shook his head and again pointed at the moon. Finally, the student looked past the finger to the moon itself, and in that moment, understood. This entire exploration has been a finger pointing at the moon of your own mental clarity. The words, concepts, and practices we've discussed are not the truth itself, but pointers toward your direct experience. Your clear mind isn't in these teachings, but in your own awareness, right now, in this moment. It's in the space between these words, in the awareness that's receiving these ideas, in the consciousness that's always been clear beneath the surface chaos of thought. The samurai knew they might die at any moment, so they couldn't afford to postpone clarity. We may not face physical death in battle, but we face the death of moments, of opportunities, of connections that will never come again. Each unclear moment is a small death, a missing of life. But each clear moment is a small awakening, a touching of the infinite through the finite. So as we conclude this journey together, remember that the end is actually the beginning. Every moment offers a fresh opportunity to clear the mind, to return to clarity, to embody the principles we've explored. The path of 10,000 days begins with a single step, and that step is always available, always here, always now. The garden of your mind awaits. The tools are in your hands. The path is before you. Not towards some distant goal, but back to the clarity that's always been your true nature, waiting patiently beneath the clutter for you to remember, to return, to reclaim. This is the ultimate gift of Zen and Bushido. Not the promise of becoming someone extraordinary, but the recognition that you already are and always have been exactly what you've been seeking. The clear mind isn't your destination, it's your home. Welcome back. Before you go, I want to leave you with a question to consider, and perhaps share your thoughts in the comments below. Of the 4 principles we explored today, Mushin, Fudoshin, Zanshin, and Shoshin, which one speaks most directly to the challenges you're facing in your life right now? And more importantly, what's one small way you could begin practicing it tomorrow? Your insights and experiences could be exactly what another viewer needs to hear on their own journey toward mental clarity. If this exploration of Zen and Bushido principles resonated with you, if you found practical wisdom that you can apply to your daily life, consider subscribing to join our community of seekers exploring ancient wisdom for modern challenges. Each week, we dive deep into philosophies and practices that have stood the test of time, not as historical curiosities, but as living wisdom for navigating today's complex world. And remember, the journey toward mental clarity isn't one you have to walk alone. Share this video with someone who might be struggling with mental clutter, someone who could benefit from these ancient practices adapted for modern life. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give another person is a new perspective, a different way of seeing their challenges, a path they hadn't considered. The conversation continues in the comments, where many of you share your own insights, challenges, and breakthroughs. This community has become a source of collective wisdom, where practitioners at all levels support each other on the path. Your voice, your experience, your questions, they all matter and contribute to our shared understanding. Until next time, remember that every moment offers an opportunity to return to clarity. The practices we've discussed today aren't just theories but tools for transformation. Use them. Experiment with them. Make them your own. And most importantly, be patient with yourself as you walk this ancient path with modern feet. The journey of 10,000 days continues with your next breath.